Today on the Catechesis Corner, let us look at how the Pope is buried and the processes involved in all of the burial ceremonies. Upon the death of a Pope, just as we have at hand the death of Pope Benedict XVI, a number of ceremonies and rituals are always observed in accordance with the Catholic tradition. The Pope's body is typically laid in state in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace, where it can be viewed by the public. A period of mourning is then observed, during which the Pope's body is typically transferred to St. Peter's Basilica and placed in front of the main altar of the Basilica. The Pope's funeral is typically a grand and elaborate ceremony attended by dignitaries and officials, presidents of countries from around the world, men and women of goodwill. The funeral mass is typically celebrated by the Dean of the College of Cardinals and is attended by members of the College of Cardinals, bishops, and other clergy, as well as the laity. Then, that is to say, the entire people of God. In the case of Pope Benedict XVI, he has a successor, and that is Pope Francis, and his burial, therefore, will be performed by His Holiness Pope Francis on Thursday, that is on the 5th of January. Then the Pope's coffin is carried in a procession into the Basilica, and the Mass is followed by a burial ceremony in the Basilica's grotto. After the funeral, the Pope's body is typically transferred and interred in the grotto of St. Peter's Basilica, which is a burial place located beneath the Basilica. The Pope's body is typically placed in a very simple cypress wood coffin and is buried in a grave alongside the graves of other popes that have gone ahead. The grave is typically marked with a stone slab inscribed with the Pope's name, the dates of his birth and the date of his death, and his papal motto. Benedict XVI was always known himself as a co-worker of the truth. In the case of Pope John Paul II, his body was first buried in the grotto of St. Peter's Basilica, but was later exhumed and placed in a tomb in a side chapel of the Basilica, which is where it remains till this very day. In the same vein, Pope John the 23rd's body was also moved into a different location after his burial. His remains were initially interred in the grotto, but were later moved to a chapel in St. Peter's Basilica. The Pope is usually buried in a simple wooden coffin, which is placed in a grave in the grotto beneath the Basilica. The grave is usually marked with a stone slab inscribed with the Pope's name, the date of his birth, and the date of his death. Some popes, however, have chosen to be cremated in history and their ashes interred in the grotto, while others have chosen to be buried in the crypt beneath the Basilica. So all of that depends, therefore, on the wish and the desire of the Pope preceding his death. So, my dear friends, this basically are what we need to know about the burial of a Pope.